their own personalities and teaching styles. So as far as planning, working with two teachers, I began, at the beginning of the year, I began using two planning books, as you can see, because we have different schedules. And now towards the end of the year, I'm putting both of them into one planning book, which I would recommend. So it's a little less cumbersome and more efficient.
Speaking of planning, so I'm going to talk now about how we manage our planning time. So what we do is we have, every week we have one meeting between the three of us. So we're always sitting at this desk, right, in these places, and we do our planning together as a triad. And then Catherine, during the week, meets with each one of us separately for one additional period. So that's two for her, and then we each meet one time with Catherine. Some things that we found helpful during our planning time. One thing that has been really helpful for us is that we happen to be able to have our planning time on a Monday morning, and which is really just great. It's like the second period Monday morning, and so we come to that meeting. The way we prepare for the meeting is one thing we've started doing is we have an agenda ready. So it allows everyone to have their input, and it also helps us to make sure we stay focused on what the most important things are. And so on our agenda, we always put down as our first 2 points, our writing teaching points and our reading teaching points. And so we come prepared for the meeting, and we spend most of our time discussing our writing teaching points and our reading teaching points, and maybe refining the language or changing them a little bit to make sure that they go well together. Using the agenda, like I said, make sure everyone gives input, so we'll usually put our teaching points into the agenda first. And then the other thing that it helps us is to make sure other topics get covered. So if we have some other like logistical things that we need to discuss, it's there on the agenda. And maybe we don't get to it in our meeting if we don't have time, but then we can follow it up with emails or something during the meeting. So now we're going to tell about the things that we're still working on, kind of our works in progress. So one thing that we're working on, we've been working on throughout the year, is conferring with students and then finding a way to share with each other sort of the contents of those conferences, and making sure that we're getting around to all the different students when we're conferring with them for their reading and writing. So one thing that's been helpful is we've started, Catherine and I have started using the Confer app on our iPads, and we're still kind of experimenting with that and seeing how it can help us in our conferences and maybe setting up strategy groups. We found that it was important for us to set up groups for conferencing and to try and stick to a schedule. That's something we're still working on. And one thing that has worked a few times, we haven't been able to make it consistent, is just sort of the idea of kind of zone conferencing. So maybe I'm meeting with the kids on this side of the room for writing today, and you're meeting with the kids on that side of the room, and the kids know which of the two teachers they can, if they have a question, they know who they can ask, rather than not being sure or always coming to the same